May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in thy sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. Every time I go back to Christchurch, I've told you this before, whenever I go back to the cathedral, someone will ask me, do you still preach about ants? To which, of course, I always reply, yes, I preach about ants all the time. And since nobody likes to be shown up as a liar, that's precisely what I do. Occasionally, at any rate. A skeptic might say there's not much call for preaching about these little creeping insects. After all, they don't appear in the Gospels very much. But there's one big quote that I keep coming back to. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, and observe her ways. Go to the ant, thou sluggard, and observe her ways. As far as I'm concerned, that trumps everything. I can keep this brief. Probably you all know everything you need to know about ants already, especially what to do if they start invading your kitchen. But what I want to talk about is emergent behavior. Emergent behavior. Imagine you were to collect a soldier ant, a worker, and a queen, and look at them under a magnifying glass or running around on your desk. You'd learn very little about what ants' behavior is really like. It's when you put them in a place where they can build a nest and they begin to form a community. Well, then it's like turning the electricity on in a fun fair. Suddenly you've got a fairground organ and dodgems, coconut shies and laser shows. Add a little structure and something emerges that couldn't have been there before. It's the same with starlings that form these huge swirling and twisting clouds, murmurations in the air. 1, 2, 10, 20 birds would give no hint of being able to do that. Geese that fly in a V formation, 1 or 2 just wouldn't have the faintest idea how to do that. Beavers that come together to dam rivers, wolves that hunt in packs. Different behavior when a community structure emerges. The main exception in the animal world, of course, is sheep. A sheep, they say, is an animal looking for a reason to die, and a flock of sheep is exactly the same. But it certainly holds for humans. Think of a choir. Remember the days when we had choirs? Or think of a cricket team. Ah, yes, we have cricket teams. But as soon as these come together, they can start to work. Not all emergent behavior in humans is helpful. Crowds have a bad name. Lynch mobs, rioters, demonstrations that turn violent. Even democracies where former friends can become lethally divided. Why am I troubling you with all this? Well, it can come as a surprise to us, even though we've been reading the Bible since we were children. It can surprise us how Scripture constantly shows God as giving priority to the people, not individuals, to the people. We've become so individualistic in the last few centuries that we forget this essential truth. God's plan for the world was a holy people living in a holy land. Yes, of course, individuals were brought in one by one. Yes, of course, they were prized for their individual gifts and talents. But it was as a community that they were going to fulfill God's purpose. The disciples recognized this in this morning's gospel passage. Who do you say I am? Asks Jesus. And they don't say you're a preeminent rabbi, or you're a great healer, or you're our greatest friend. He gets identified as the Messiah, someone anointed by God to be the king, the shepherd, the prophetic and priestly ruler of a people. And what about the behaviour of this people? What would its emergent behaviour be? How might they comport themselves in ways you might not have predicted? Well, you should know my answer to that by now. Look at Galatians 5:22. Write it down. Stick it on the side of your fridge with a magnet. What are the emergent qualities of a Christian people? Well, their love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. Paul makes it clear that these are not ideals, not aspirations that a Christian community might hope to fulfill. No, this is what you observe when you see a Christian community in action, just like the V formation of geese or the murmuration of starlings. That's not the example of emergent behaviour that we get in the epistle set for today, though. I hope you've looked online and seen the readings and heard what I say about them. The epistle for today would have been the beginning of chapter 12 of St. Paul's letter to the Romans. We have gifts, he says, we have gifts that differ according to the grace given to us. Prophecy in proportion to faith, ministry in ministering, the teacher in teaching, the exhorter in exhortation, the giver in generosity, the leader in diligence, the compassionate in cheerfulness. The roles that emerge. Emergent roles, not appointments that need to be filled. Just by interacting with their Christian brothers and sisters, people will find these gifts and talents coming to the fore. A Christian community becomes as organised and as efficient as an ant's nest, and that's how it needs to be if it is to fulfill its function. Just go to the letter to the Romans and have a look at that list of roles, or go to Galatians 5:22 and look at the qualities Paul mentions there. I don't need to say any more about them. You can work out for yourselves how that message might apply to you. If there's anything in you that's hidden, waiting to emerge and contribute to the behaviour and the functioning and the success of the community. I said a Christian community becomes as organised as an ant's nest, and that's how it needs to be if it's to fulfill its function. But what is its function? Next week, same time, same place.